Well, architecture is very important because it deals with the fundamental issues of our life. It deals with the problem of how do we live, what is the quality of our spaces, and we know that a lot of architecture still around is very problematic. So there are many places which were planned too quickly. Others have not been planned at all. So we have worldwide to raise the quality of architecture, because if we have more quality in architecture, then we have more life quality, and then people simply feel better. So I think this is simply something anthropological. Huh? We have to do something in order to create better architecture everywhere in the world. Well, Switzerland is a very lucky country because it has an important architectural scene. It is both very present nationally and internationally. Many are star architects, they're worldwide, they're known everywhere, and like Herzog de Meuron and many others. So there's a strong tradition, and the figure of the architect is rather important in the national context. So he really takes place in a debate concerning everything. So in Switzerland we have a rather good situation, and naturally, even in our country, architecture is faced with new challenges. For example, that we will probably during the next 10 or 20 years build a little less and have a little more landscaping and other kind of projects. So this is a new challenge and an interesting challenge that we have to cope with other things which became more important throughout these last years. Well, the Biennale has always been very political. All the last Biennales have had some general political idea. So I think if you invite someone like Aravena, then naturally you have one way to define the role of architecture, looking to social criteria, for who do you build. But this is a long-standing tradition, and I think the Biennale always did a very good job in not only speaking about aesthetics, but at the same time speaking about functions, about the role of the architect, about the role of architecture. The Biennale is really the big showcase where we ask the right questions about the role of architecture today. Well, I don't know very well the Balkanic region. I have been in Zagreb once for some days. I think the countries are very different one of each other. They're faced with a big danger, which is uniformity. That new architecture, very often as it is done very quickly, and as the Balkanic countries want to recover quickly, well, you have a lot of high-rise buildings, shopping malls, and other constructions which not necessarily involve the best architects. So I think one of the main dangers is that you have a lot of similarity, you have a lot of low-class architecture, very banal, and good architecture, which certainly exists, and I'm sure there are many talents here, is even more stronger, is even more difficult to sell and to create in Balkanic countries than in other countries. Well, architecture is, as all the forms of society, related to our time and to the means and to the possibilities of our time. So networking, exchange is something very strong, and today we all have libraries and incredible data at our disposal, so we're very free to do a lot of things, and we can almost instantly compare every possible project with every other possible project. But still, this is only the material part of architecture. I still very much believe in invention, in taking your time, in the architect being sometimes a solitary person too. Let's not rely too much on networks and on networking, but say the architect has an artistic part and component too, and he has to create something, and in order to create you have to concentrate and you have to be yourself. So networking is very well and exchanges are very well, but at the same time, let's come back to basics too. To have your own language, to be capable to work out your own language. A good catalyst for the contemporary cities and for future cities would be better quality. This means, for example, rethinking infrastructure, rethinking the role of the car. The car-oriented city belongs to the past, but it will take 10 and 20 and 30 years, in many places around the world to get the car out and to design cities for people. So this is something very, very important today, that the city is not governed by the car and the people who drive cars, but that it belongs to everywhere and especially to people who walk. This is one main element. And then to protect everything which is precious in a city. You have important historical cities in Albania like Berat. Well, you cannot enter the castle with a car and you cannot occupy this. These are very sensible places. So let's protect our cities. Let's protect our castles and our old, everything which belongs to the heritage. This is very important too. And we have to think all over the city in a different way. The city has to be for all the citizens. And so the city has to become more democratic, more open. We have to breathe better. We have a lot of problems with pollution. So all these are challenges, and the architects are on the forefront. So they really have to change things together with others. Well, the main challenge of architecture is, for example, fighting against the uniformization of the world. Architecture everywhere around the world becomes more and more the same. And whether you visit a plaza or a hospital or whatever, it's always the same building, and this is very boring. So we have to come back to an individual language. We have to respect local traditions. We have to give time, and we have to create economical possibilities to have an architecture which is intelligent, which is fine, which has a lot of style.